I'm going to talk a little bit about what IBM is doing and why I think that's important. You can feel free to come up with me afterwards and argue with me. And then we're actually going to do a live demo. And you know what they say about live demos, they never go well. I don't expect this to be any different, which is why we backed it up with a video. So hopefully you get the benefit of the live demo. Just know that everything is in real time. We are on the hotel network. So if something gets screwed up, I'm going to blame all of you on your, playing games on your phone. All right. So who are we? I'm John. Nice to meet you. If you're in the civilian government, I may have met you if we talk about big data and things. I'm around all day. I've got a couple of different speaking engagements, all that kind of stuff. My background is actually in math, science, and predictive analytics, but here I am talking about big data. So I've been working with parallel databases, federal government for a long time. Not the type of guy who's going to spend a long time on my presentation, so here you go. Who are you, Albert?
I'm Albert. I've been with IBM Federal for a little bit more than a year, but my background is from databases and data warehousing, high-performance computing, massive parallel processing. So,
can you hear us okay, everybody? Yes, no? Yes. Not obnoxious enough?
Am I too loud?
All right, keep rolling for me. So, what am I here to talk about? A couple of main themes. I think you'll see this over and over again. The first of which is IBM, we're kind of getting away a little bit from the sort of monolithic private software stack that we've been doing over time. And you'll see this term, open for data. And I was the first person to say that's stupid, but IBM's never been known for its marketing. What does open for data mean? It means that we're embracing open source. We're leveraging open source technologies underneath our technology stack. We're leveraging open data sets, meaning pulling data off data.gov and anywhere else we can grab it. And we're actually now, we've always leveraged open standards. So whether we're talking about Hadoop or Spark or how we connect to databases, we're trying to get away from anything really proprietary, and that's by design. We are desperately trying to become the enterprise leader in Hadoop. If you're not familiar with Hadoop, there's plenty of sessions on that today, so I suggest you go see those. How are we? We're 100% open source. We're in line with the Open Data Platform, and then we add value adds on top of that, things that are very specifically important to US federal government clients. Things like security, manageability, and access. We are the leader in enterprise Spark. That's pretty cool. If you don't know what Spark is, again, you're going to hear a lot about it today. It's an analytics operating system, and we're putting it underneath a lot of our technologies, and it's going to make things very, very fast. It's easy to program. It's very open. So if you want education on Spark, come ask me. If you want to leverage it, play around with it, we've got plenty of ways to do that. You'll actually see that today. Being a statistician, I tend to think that analytics are difficult, but we are trying to make it much easier. So you'll actually see a version of that today. Meaning, how do I take a lot of the complexity out of grabbing data, curating data, and actually analyzing it? So you'll see that. What I'm going to be focusing on today, so all of you can leave if this isn't, what you want to see, is taking something that takes the government today a long time and doing it in this meeting. I was at an IRS meeting yesterday. Hopefully he's not here. Anybody from IRS? All right, so here was the quote, and you can call me out if I'm wrong on this. The IRS fella said, if you ask me to get a new server to deploy a new capability today, our turnaround time is 410 days. Now, you're dealing with some highly secure data, sensitive stuff, I'm sure, but that's really kind of too long, DevOps and all these agile technologies and methodologies don't make sense if it takes you that long to do that. And then I'm going to be talking about our next generation platform. What on earth is that, right? How do I manage structured, unstructured data? How do I do it quickly? How do I do it easily and inexpensively, leveraging open source, open data, and open standards? Make sense, everybody? Do we actually have any data scientists here? Because I've got a little bit for you. Oh, there's one. All right. Sorry, it's just you and me. Oh, two. Okay, we got two. All right. Roll. Okay. So to my point earlier about IRS, and sorry for calling you guys out, but it's the same across the board. God forbid you get a new data set and somebody says, I want to analyze it. What do you have to do to put that into place? You got to go procure hardware. You got to procure storage, network. You got to go talk to the data center guys. If you're in DoD, you got to go talk to DISA. Any DISA folks here? Good, then I can make fun of them. It's a nightmare. It takes entirely too long. It's very, very expensive. And that is why you're seeing this push to go to cloud from your CIOs, from public sector, private sector, everything. Why cloud? Well, it's interesting. A lot of this stuff I can just scratch off the list. And this is by design. So do I need to go procure hardware? No. Do I need to do a massive capital expenditure? No. Do I need to start worrying about security? Obviously, yes. But I'm going to talk a little bit about how that changes. We think there's massive cost savings and massive agility gained, ease of use in this whole cloud thing, which is why I'm able to stand here and say, I'm going to take a data set, load it into an enterprise class data warehouse, and analyze it in about 20 minutes in front of you today, which again is something that would probably take you 2 to 3 years to do otherwise.
I think this is just a little illustration.
Yeah, I've seen this over and over again, and you guys have seen this too. You start down a path. I wrote a blog about this. Anybody read my blog? No? I didn't expect so. Oh, thanks, Bruce. You start down a path, and the requirements change, so you have to start down another path. Then you go on a cyber sprint because somebody decided your security isn't good enough, so then you have to go down another path. Then somebody tells you you've got to keep way more data than you ever thought or collect this new data set, so you go down another path. It's no surprise that we find data warehousing and analytics really hard in government. We're doing the best we can. There's no question about that. But I think there may be a couple of different ways we can do it a little bit better. I'll show you. Okay. So, who's at fault here? Because I love pointing fingers. I'm just kidding. Partially, it's us. You know, IBM and others make things difficult. You know, systems integrators love it when things are difficult. We're fixing that. You know, and we know that some things are difficult because of the way the government works. That's why it's your fault too. We're hoping to fix that as well. We're not fixing government, but we're going to make it easier on you. So this is when we actually show you what I'm talking about, right?
So here we go.
All right, so Albert's going to help me out here. Anybody heard of Bluemix? Anybody know what that is? Okay, so we have a cloud. Our cloud is called Software, and that does your infrastructure as a service, much like your Amazon, your Microsoft. And then you take that one level of abstraction up, and you have our platform as a service. Platform as a service is what we're going to be talking about mostly today, because it gives the benefit of not having to worry about operating systems or backups or anything like that, and just worry about the application, right? Bluemix is our platform as a service. Now, I made a couple of notes about why this is called the Enterprise App Store. To my earlier point, I think buying software, deploying software, getting use out of software is entirely too difficult. It should be like, I need Google Maps, I download it, I put in my password, and I have it. I don't want it anymore, I delete it. And that's really what we're trying to do with Bluemix. So I think you'll see that. So I have a bet going, or at least I had a bet going. I was going to plant somebody in the audience with like a data set and like a little USB drive and ask for one. See, I see a couple of people laughing. Andrew, you are wrong. I should have done it. But that's okay.
Is he there?
Where is he? Andrew?
Andrew?
Oh, Kyle's got it. All right, Kyle, you're our guinea pig then. So if I get nothing out of the technical people in this audience today, I'd like you to go home and try this, all right? And then call me and let me know how it was. Kyle, you're a sales guy, right? Yes. Okay. By the way, Kyle, anybody DHS? Talk to him. We're going to use you, all right? So Kyle is now our guinea pig. So he's going to go home and he's going to sign himself up for Bluemix. Do you want to get on this?
Yeah. So we're going to sign up, Kyle?
Yeah, let's sign him up.
All right, Kyle.
You have a credit card, Kyle? I'm just kidding. You actually don't need a credit card.
It's your lucky day.
You should
It's
face
free.
one red.
Yeah.
All right. For those of you that can't see this, I apologize.
We're just going to
Look elsewhere. No, so he's signing up Kyle here. Don't spell his name wrong. So Kyle is now going to own a Bluemix account, which means that...
Is it the right spelling? Okay. And I need your email address. Phone number? I'll just use mine, okay?
Yeah, don't put in his real information. Because you don't want IBM to bother you. They're a pain. Anyway. So this is going to be signed up for our public Bluemix, right? We also have 2 other versions of this. We have a Bluemix dedicated, which sits on dedicated hardware in a FedRAMP data center, which is important for probably everybody in this room. And we have Bluemix local, which allows us to actually put this entire platform as a service on site. Now, the other thing I haven't mentioned, do we have any DevOps guys in here? Operations type, programmers? Okay. Bluemix is an awesome DevOps platform, and I'm going to do it a total injustice by not mentioning any of that. So that's about 50% of what this is. I'm talking about the application side of things, what IBM calls cloud data services. How we doing? All right, Kyle's nearly in. What company I work for? I thought you had a funnier joke in your other one.
Oracle, right?
Oh, don't do that. You'll get nasty grams. Okay, so we're signed up. What's the next step here? Well,
if it would be Kyle, he would log in, check his email, and...
Oh yeah, he'd get his email and all that good stuff.
So I'm just going to log in as myself here.
Hey, how about thumbs up for Albert for actually getting this to work a little bit so far, right?
I think you're running ahead of yourself a little bit. Let's make sure it works.
Okay, so your boss or whoever comes down to you and says, I want to do analytics. And you say to yourself, well, what does that mean, right? Well, by and large, you're probably going to get a data set. That data set could be unstructured, it could be structured, it could be multi-structured, right? So
I'm Kyle here, I'm just logging in. And
in technology terms, we're really talking about traditional relational databases. We're talking about Hadoop and Spark-based infrastructure for your unstructured data. And then for your multi-structured kind of NoSQL type solutions, right? So the first thing to do is figure out what we've got.
So this is the main.
This is your home page. This is what you should see.
And we're just going to go in and catalog and explore and see what do we have.
So this is that app store I was talking about. Now you're going to hear a lot of stuff around Watson and IoT and things that we think are going to be important down the road. They're all here. You notice you've got APIs into the Watson supercomputer, into things like weather and Twitter data. And
runtimes for different things. There's Watson right there. There's mobile stuff, DevOps stuff, web and application. But we want to analyze the data set. So why don't we
care about data.
Go on this side and we're going to click analytics in here.
Data and analytics. All right, so what do we see up there? If you can't read it, I've got all kinds of good stuff. I've got Spark, I've got Hadoop, I've got relational databases, I've got NoSQL databases. Remember how I said IBM was open for data earlier? That's kind of an interesting thing that I'd like to point out, that we've got a lot of technologies here that are completely open source technologies.
Exactly. And if you're not sure, you can click Help Me Pick. And here you can choose. You want to do the self-service, which is going to be platform as a service, or you want to do full service, which is going to be the full service application for you.
Obviously, we have our own technologies up here like DB2, but you'll note other completely non-IBM technologies, MongoDB, Elasticsearch, Postgres, MySQL, all as a service, fully managed for you. You go online, you click it.
So out of this, I just know ahead that the data set is structured. Mm-hmm. So we are going to go ahead and choose DashDB, which is our next generation analytics warehouse, fully managed for you.
I'll give you a little bit of a sort of an overview afterwards of the different technologies we're choosing. But MPP, Enterprise In-Memory Columnar Data Warehouse. So it seems like a pretty good start to look at some structured data that we have. So I got some drug data. Not the fun kind, but the NIH kind of drug data. And this drug data basically is looking at the efficacy of certain types of drugs. So when a guy comes into the office and I take his blood pressure, I look at his gender or her gender, and then I take a blood sample. Which drug is most likely going to be most effective for treating that disease? This technology works for everything. So does geospatial analytics. If you're Coast Guard, it does things like fraud, waste, abuse, those types of anomaly detection analytics. I can show you a little bit in a bit, but
so I just want to point out, we already have our instance created on the cloud.
So wait a minute, hold on a second. So you just click the button.
Yes.
And now you have a data
Took
warehouse.
about 20 seconds, yes. So I'm going to click another button, and it's going to be, it should come up online. So I just click
Anybody
one.
want to take a guess as to how long it would take you to get a data warehouse at your customer? 100 terabytes?
There you go. It's ready.
We're done. All right. So now we have a data warehouse. That's cool. What does this thing do?
Let's load up some data and see what we can do.
All right. We got a question. So, great question, actually. Couple of things. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not loud enough, Dan. He said, I have a data warehouse and I did not spend a dime. So the way we've done this is a couple versions. This is freemium, so yes, you have a small data warehouse and you did not spend a dime. If you want to try the real thing in a FedRAMP data center on dedicated hardware, you can try it, 0 charge, 3 months, and we give you 20 hours of lab services to go with that. And those guys are expensive. Highly recommend you take that up, you know, if that's interesting. I've got flyers in the back, or, yep, okay, so see the 2 guys raising their thumb? Okay, good.
So let's go ahead and see what we can do with it.
Great question, yep.
I'm going to click on load the data, and you have a few options here. So you can load from desktop, you can load from the cloud, either IBM Cloud or other cloud providers.
Yep.
You can load data from Twitter if you have some Twitter feeds.
Anybody got that random comment, hey, can you guys start looking at Twitter data? And maybe don't know how to start? This is a great way to start. I click that button, I enter a search term like, I don't know,
You
Prince.
guys do, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
And I automatically enrich that data with sentiment, comments, space, and time. It's good stuff.
And you can also look at the open data sets. So you can explore some of the even government open data if you want to load and play with it.
Yep.
For this demo, we're just going to do a desktop.
We have a data set, so we're good. We have my drug data set I was talking about earlier. Now, we're going to load one table here. So obviously, what'd you do?
I didn't do anything.
We're going to load one table here. So obviously, this is a contrived example. However, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I've got an entire Oracle data warehouse on-prem, and I get it that this is going to save me time and money and security and all that stuff. How do I move all that? I'll get to that. Let's watch out.
There are a few options here, and you see that there's a tab there that says Aspera. Aspera is a technology that IBM has, and it's currently in beta here, but if you ever wondered about how Netflix can get the HD picture, if you're flying on JetBlue, you can actually stream Netflix on your computer and watch a movie. How do they do that? That's because they use Aspera technology, which is allowing you to transfer the data very fast. So they use UDP protocol and they use inline compression to move the data quick. And it is, depending on your network situation, it could be anywhere from 10 to 100 times faster than the typical load.
It sounds a little bit crazy. I'm going to just repeat that. Using the same infrastructure you already have, it makes it 10 to 100 times faster. And this is key to how we get data up to the cloud. There's none of this shipping a hard drive around or anything like that. Of course, you can do that if you've got petabytes of data, but we'll leave that be for now.
I'm not going to use it today because the data set that John brought in is pretty small.
So right now, we're just uploading right from the desktop. I mentioned earlier that there are ways in which we can actually automate the process of moving an entire data warehouse. So we have another technology here called DataWorks, which is another one of those buttons you can simply click and it brings it right up. DataWorks is what I'd call line of business ETL. It helps us move data sets around. But there's a new technology we have just now coming out called DataWorks Lift. And DataWorks Lift, you point it at an on-premise database and say, I want that in the cloud. It can be a transactional database. It can be an analytical database. I click Go, and it moves it up for me. It takes care of the data migration. A lot of the stored procedures and all that stuff run exactly the same. Zero lift. That's why it's called Lift, I guess.
So we picked up the file. You could preview the data before you load it. I just knew that the file contains the column headers. So it chooses the column headers for you, shows the data so you can make some decisions on the data types and everything else if you need to.
At the end of the day, your boss has told you, I want to figure out which drug to apply to which person. How do we go about figuring that out? It's a very good question. Here, we have which drugs worked best on which people. In the statistics and data mining world, we call this supervised learning because we have outcomes. So I can say to a computer, via some cognitive technology, hey, system, take a look at all this previous data and tell me, based on the hundreds of examples that I have, which drug samples work best. That's data mining, supervised data mining in a nutshell. There's other kinds. We can talk about that all you want. I'll be around all day. But for this instance, we're using this example.
So before we start the load, it gives you a chance to change the column names if you'd like to, change the types.
What kind of data format is this?
This particular file is CSV, so comma-separated values.
So it's not in what kind of document? It is not in Excel. It is in what kind of data?
Oh, you want to see it? I can bring it up.
So the question is, what kind of data sets can we load? And the answer is anything.
But
so
in this particular case, it's...
this particular case, it's CSV. You can actually load an Excel spreadsheet right from your desktop. If you've got enterprise applications like information server or other ETL tools, we support 100% of those. Same thing for your reporting tools. If you've got MicroStrategy or Cognos or Business Objects, all fully supported.
So I wanted to show the file, but we can do this later. So I'm just going to finish
One of the
load.
neat things we do, there's a lot of hype right now about NoSQL, right? Databases like Couchbase and Cloud, MongoDB you saw up there. The appeal of that is that I don't have to have a schema. But what they don't tell you is that you have to assign a schema to it eventually. And we've actually incorporated a lot of that technology into this data warehouse so that I can say, here's a no schema database, a no SQL database, translate it automatically into an analytics database for me so I can perform analytics on it. So I can actually read in things like JSON. It's cool stuff.
So we loaded the data. We can see the table now. This is the table structure that was created for us. You can see other tables if you want to. There's a little admin interface here you can click on, and you can go and look at any other schemas.
Now that we've got some data in the cloud, Albert, I think it may be time to talk about the S word, security. I almost fell off the thing there. Did everybody see that? Security is always an issue, right? Your IA guy is going to take this, he's going to tear it apart, and he's going to say this is never going to work. Well, there's a couple of things I have to say to that. First of all, everything I'm talking about here is FedRAMP, FISMA, ISO 27001,
HIPAA,
PCI, and I want to bring up a valuable point here. There are other clouds that provide infrastructure as a service, 800-pound gorillas in the room. Their stuff is FedRAMP at the infrastructure level. Do you know why your IA guys are having such a hard time with that? Because at the end of the day, you still need to manage those certifications to get the ATO, because all you're renting from them is hardware. Everything I'm showing you here is certified up through the application layer. So when that CyberScope thing comes down and says, you're in trouble, you need to provide all these audit logs and access things and everything like that, it's already done for you. It's already FedRAMPed, it's already HIPAA, it's already PCI. That includes not just the databases, but the other technologies I'm talking about as well.
The software stack that I showed you? The software stack that I was showing you?
Yep.
The other thing to mention here is that it is also bare metal.
That question was, is that the entire software stack?
Yeah.
Yep. And SoftLayer, our infrastructure, has the ability to provision both virtualized containers, and we use Cloud Foundry and Docker and those types of cloudy technologies. Happy to talk about that afterwards. But for our stuff where we do this type of data warehousing, where performance is important, we leverage bare metal. So one of the questions I sometimes get from information security officers is, if I load this data into the cloud like I just did, can you tell me where it sits? And the answer is, for federal government clients, I absolutely can. I can give you the serial number of the hard drive that it's sitting on. I can tell you its exact location in the data center, and you can go see it out in Ashburn. We got one in Ashburn, one in Dallas. It's a big deal, especially for our DoD type clients.
The other thing you can do here, once you loaded the data, there's a neat little tab here that allows you to see if you actually loaded any sensitive data or anybody did this. So you can actually get a report. Of course, this data that you have is cleansed.
So this sensitive data thing actually goes out into the database and looks for things like credit card numbers or social security numbers or first name, last name, date of birth combinations, things like that, to automatically notify me if I might have a PCI, PII type violation. Anybody who's familiar with our Guardium technology has probably seen stuff similar to this.
So there is in this web interface, there's a little SQL editor where you can go and build and run SQL statements if you wish. But you also can connect any of your existing applications on premises to this. Whatever you guys use, Cognos, Informatica, MicroStrategy, OBIE, whatever you guys use on premises, you just connect this, whatever, ODBC, JDBC, this is fully standard.
We do have some lessons learned though, right guys? Where if you want applications to perform like they do today, do take the extra time and effort to think about, if I have an on-prem application that sources data or that does this reporting, think about moving that up to the cloud as well. Because it's always faster to have two computers talk next to each other than when they're sitting across a wide area network. That's just a little tidbit of information for you. We know that firsthand, don't we?
So, and right here, when you go into the Connect tab and you click on the Download Tools.
I got a question.
Yes, sorry.
And I will remember to repeat it this time.
Sorry to interrupt. What's your relationship with SAS?
Great question. So SAS is a great partner of ours, fully certified on this platform. You'd ask for your SAS access connector, and that'll optimize that to do the database pushdown. You are welcome.
So you go into this Tools tab. First of all, you can download any driver packages for any popular OS platforms. If you have something that is not here, you can go to IBM or Fix Central and you can download it from there. Virtually any platforms existing, you'll find here. You can also download some of the free database design software or database administration software from IBM right here, if you want to use some of it. And the other thing is, and that's we used with some of the clients, is you can download the database conversion software. Let's say that you want to move your warehouse from Oracle to DB.
Has anybody tried to use Fix Central? I'm just curious. Okay, that's our IBM software download site. It can be a nightmare. This is one example of how we're trying to make things easier. You want to go download the drivers, the tools you need, they're right there. Just click the button, you got it. Install takes seconds. One thing Albert didn't show you actually, and this drives me nuts a little bit, but I'll tell you about it anyway. There's a button I can click where I say, embed this right into Excel. So if I report that I want to run every day and pull it right into Excel, because that's how I do my job,
we're going to blame Apple for this.
I create that live connection right there, and I can suck that in. So you might be thinking, okay, how do I connect all these applications mysteriously to this thing? What's interesting about this database, and I'm not only going to talk about databases today. We'll get on to the next one, because we've got to move a little bit. What's interesting about this is it looks and feels exactly like it's on-premise. So we can set up the VPN connections. We can use the different technologies that you're using on site, like Active Directory or whatever, to do your authentication into this. But at the end of the day, you're getting ahead of me. It's all right. At the end of the day, it doesn't look and feel different. It's just hosted in the cloud. I'm going to actually quote some numbers here. Tom, don't have a heart attack. How much do you think this costs? Let's say I have a 1 terabyte data warehouse that I want to build. Anybody have any guesses? Besides it being sort of initially free. So I don't pay for this up front. I pay for it as I go. $1,000. Anybody who's paid for Oracle licensing knows that's kind of crazy, right? That's $12,000 a year for a terabyte data warehouse, fully managed. Includes the backups, everything. But at the end of the day, we were not asked to build a data warehouse, we were asked to go analyze data. Now that we have data in our data warehouse, which I will talk about technically in a second, I've got to analyze it. Now, I'm a statistician. So I'm going to want to use SAS or R or Stata or SPSS. However, most of us aren't. Kyle, you're our guinea pig, right? Are we going to sign you up again or no? This is so easy, Kyle could do it. No offense, Kyle. Oh, he's already got an account. Okay.
Oh
By the
God.
way, we have lots of demonstrations of all this stuff using medical healthcare data, using fraud type things out there in the lobby area. Check them out.
So I'm just signing up to Watson Analytics.
You know
That's
what? So we're going to show you a technology called Watson Analytics. It does analysis of primarily structured data. You can bring in data from anywhere. And here's the funny thing. Albert hadn't used Watson Analytics until 2 days ago. Okay? So if Ed Weber's back there, he's probably going to rip my head off for showing Watson Analytics without knowing what we're doing. But it'll be an adventure.
So
Okay.
I'm in here. I'm just going to go into the administration. And then-
Anybody seen this before? Yeah? Okay. Oh,
So-
you work here.
This is the connection information that I need to fill up. And if you want to know where I get it, if I go back here to dashboard, which is screen here. Yeah. I guess I lost it, but it is out there, yeah, right here. So you go into this tab and you have all the connection information that you need in here that you can use in other applications. There's a JDBC connect string and, you know, ODBC parameters, so I already have it put in here. Just click connect.
So what we've just done is we've connected up our Watson technologies to our data warehouse technologies.
So now I can go back to the main dashboard and let's say I'd like to explore this data set now.
That sounds good. Let's explore.
So I just click on this and I'd like to upload some data. Here's my dash demo data set.
Oh, you put in your password wrong. You had it up until just then. That's all right. I'll talk over it. Don't worry, it won't be awkward.
Jeez.
While you're dancing, I have a question.
Shoot.
You talk about downloading these various things.
Yep.
That's not actually a download to my device, is it? It still resides.
Okay, so when you have on-premise systems, like for example a client workstation or maybe an ETL tool, then you always need a driver to connect to a database. And that does have to be on-prem. Everything else we're doing that we showed you in terms of running SQL or doing administration type things, they don't have to be local installs. They can be all web-based. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm probably like most people in the government. They've got me locked down so tight
You don't
I
have
can't
admin
even
rights.
use
Yep.
internet tools to clear my own temporary and cookie files. So
Yep.
the idea that I would download something that hadn't been fully vetted by a half a dozen different IT security guys is not
Our intention would be we'd have to get this past them. There's no question about that. So do this on your home PC tonight.
I hope it works this time. Let's see what happens here.
But at the end of the day, you can actually do everything you need to do without ever touching your computer or loading up a driver or anything that requires admin rights. Not that I'm telling you to do it, but you can.
As John mentioned,
Did you get your password right?
I got the password right. Something else isn't right here. So
Oh.
let's see if this has changed at all.
This is why we take video. In any case, okay, so I log into my Watson Analytics and I want to do analytics. And I don't know anything about writing BI reports or machine learning, statistical analysis, anything like that. That is what this tool is for. We support both, and I'll actually show you an example of how I can run some R script to do the exact same thing that he's doing here. But I had to go write that. And I enjoy that because I'm a statistician. And then I had Albert correct all my code because I'm a terrible coder. But at the end of the day, we get this capability. If you can't get it now, just go to the video.
Now,
I do enjoy watching you squirm, though. Has anybody tried to type in front of this many people?
It is
He's
painful.
actually doing a really good job. Did you get it?
Let's see. I think it's more promising this time. So.
Okay. So why is this Watson Analytics? Well, a couple of things. Oh, there you go. You're good.
So this is the list of the tables that I have on this DashDB instance. And here's our drug table right there. So I click on this,
Oh, there's all our drugs.
and we could preview the data.
What's really neat about this is that I can ask it natural language questions. Like if I think that the use of the certain drug might actually be related to my blood pressure, I can say, what's the relationship between drug and blood pressure? And I just ask it, and it graphs it for me. And again, we're not experts. We figured this out 2 days ago. Well, maybe 3 days ago, but still. So what do you notice here? First thing was it gave us a data quality assessment. We got a 91, so that's pretty good. Your data's not always going to be that good. We have tools to help clean that up. Topic for a different discussion.
So we're going to explore this data set. So I'm clicking on this, and as John mentioned, I don't know much about data analytics, and I'm not a data scientist. But a tool like this, I just go in, and it allows me to answer natural language questions.
Can I make fun of Kyle real quick again?
Yeah.
Hey, Kyle, you know your periodic table? Yes? Do you know what Na or K is? Sodium and potassium, we got it. All right, so what's in my data set here? You were close. What's in my data set here? I've got age, gender, this sodium to potassium ratio in my bloodstream, which gives you a good sense as to kind of what state I'm in, right? Did I forget one? I don't know. So it automatically makes suggestions, like what is the trend of sodium to potassium over age and gender? Well, just click on that, generate the dashboard for you. So not only does it come up with basic summary statistics up top, but also gives us a picture, pretty picture. You see a weird spike there, by the way. You get that?
It's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. I don't know how real this data is, by the way, but. Okay.
And then you could just keep asking questions here.
What's neat about this, too, is that our underlying database in the back end is all in memory. It's columnar. It's highly optimized for analytics. So while we're dealing with a very small data set here, we could be talking about hundreds of terabytes of data, right? We have the ability to scale that out massively parallel. That's not $1,000 a month, by the way.
I don't know, I'm just going, clicking on different things. So we did some initial data exploration. So should we try to do some predictions now?
Sure, you want to do some data mining? Anybody ever seen the nitty gritty of data mining?
So if we
It's not going to be that exciting, but you'll see.
If we go back to this screen, right here, we can basically do some predictions.
Let's predict something. Does anybody remember what we wanted to predict? Come on, guys, you're not paying attention at all? Then what medication? If I had gold stars, you'd have one by now. Okay, so we want to predict which drug to give a patient based on all the other information I have, so that when future patrons come in, I know which one to give them.
We're choosing drug as a target, right?
That is correct.
So we're going to remove this, and we're going to put drug as a target, and all other things going to be as a factors into that prediction, right?
How much statistics did I just have to do? Anybody? 0. That's by design. That's not saying we're not doing it, because we are in the back end in terms of cleaning up data, imputing values, all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, this is going to spit out a perfectly good analytical model that tells us not only what drives drug use, well, that's others, but also how to basically vet somebody every time somebody new comes in and give them the right drug. So you can see here, see my little circle thing? That's kind of our neat little diagram there. Highlight those things for me. What's the biggest, in this case, driver?
Sodium to potassium, I think. So So this is.
Oh, so that's sodium to potassium ratio. So if it's greater than 21, it's always, always, always that purple drug, drug Y, right? That was data mining. I don't know if anybody realizes that, but it doesn't have to be as hard as sometimes we make it out to be. Now, that's not to say you don't use statisticians anymore, because data needs to be cleaned up and understood and all that stuff. And we've also got an example of that. So I've talked a little bit about open data and open technologies. One of the biggest open source analytics languages today is something called R. Anybody heard of it, used it, played with it? A lot of graduate students and even college students coming out of school now are starting with R as their primary language and learning technologies like SPSS and SAS and whatever the workplace demands after the fact. So we're seeing a huge increase in the rise of this.
Let me guess, you want to switch to?
I would like to switch and show my R code.
All right. I was going to pretend that I wrote it, but.
Oh, you still can.
You blew
If it
me.
breaks, I'm going to blame it on you.
I had to fix it, yes.
So here we have some examples of different types of R code, but what this code is going to do is actually source data directly out of my DB instance, run the analytics in the DB instance, and then spit out an answer. And I'm doing the exact same thing in this code that you just saw with Watson Analytics. But because I'm a tinkerer and I like writing, I got to do that. So there's something here for everybody.
So
nobody
there's,
can probably see that, right? No? That's okay. Just run it for me.
So this is just an R script that we imported from local file system right there into the DB, and we're just going to run it.
And it runs just like you would in any environment, except it's all based in the cloud. We're doing it in parallel, and we're actually doing this data mining machine language, or machine learning. So I do a plot here, in case anybody wants to actually know exactly what the plot looks like for...
Uh-oh, something didn't work.
Did I break it?
Yeah, I think you did.
Well, then that's probably my fault. Okay, any questions so far? Yes?
So there's a lot of power in doing that in one data set.
Yep.
But the true power comes from linking to other data sets.
Correct.
So what sort of tools are there to identify the best unique variable to link them on?
Yeah. So there's a whole data refinement step, which we kind of skipped because that takes a little bit longer, as you know. But you can do all that within that Watson Analytics tool. I, being a database guy, would prefer that get done for me before the analyst gets it, because that way the analyst isn't spending all their time doing data movement stuff. So we have full suites of tools, both on-prem and off-prem. You may have heard of Information Server, right? That's designed to do data analysis, data quality assessment, pull that data together. And then in the cloud here, we've got that DataWorks application, where it reaches out to the different data sets, blends them together. We're actually using Spark under the covers on that.
So I showed up the script that works, not John's script, but actually his script was working too. I don't know, something happened maybe.
Yeah.
But this is just an example of some of the sample data. It also runs, it's against the same DB data warehouse, just different tables.
And this is entirely, all the graphics, all the data mining is all entirely free and open source. That's based on that R stuff. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the technologies we used, just to kind of recap. We'll do a Q&A. I am available. Well, not that kind of available. I am married, but I don't get the sense that most of you are that interested.
I'm switching back.
I got a couple of laughs out of that. Thanks, Julie.
Go back to the slideshow here.
All right, so what technologies did I show today? I deploy data to a data warehouse. That's DB. I do that for both analytic systems and
That's right,
transactional systems.
Yep.
Right? I work with NoSQL databases. I'm massively parallel. I'm in memory. You put this up against what you're doing on-prem today, it will be faster for your analytics. I promise. I will prove it, too. We're happy to do these demonstrations. That's why we're giving you 3 months free. We'd be stupid to do that if it didn't work. Next slide. That Aspera stuff, you don't need it just for cloud. So if you, for example, have 2 data centers, and your connectivity between those data centers is terrible, like it is in almost every government data center, this can help. Backup, DR type scenarios, it's huge. We're integrating it into all of our technologies underneath the covers because it literally is 10 to 100 times faster, especially when you don't have great connectivity, if you're out in the field and whatnot. DataWorks, this is that application I was talking about earlier. I didn't get to show it today, but perfect for bringing together different data sets, automatically providing data quality assessment, and then actually doing conversion from different databases on site. So there's different ways you can access it. You can use a regular REST API, you can use it right from here, or you can use it just like any database tool. Keep going. Watson Analytics, I think you saw that. I highly recommend you see the real demos outside. You'll get a much deeper dive and you can kind of see the data and see what they're playing with. Highly applicable for fraud, waste, abuse, prediction, all kinds of stuff. Anybody who's getting into data mining, even if you're brilliant like I am, but I still managed to hit my own, even if you're brilliant like I am, I still start here because this lets me prototype quickly. I find a good path to go down, and then I go and dig into my SAS code or my SPSS code. And I'll end here, right? Remember, it's not just about IBM stuff. We're about hosting everybody's stuff. There are economies of scale, so it is relatively inexpensive compared to probably what you're paying for some of your on-premise investments. Much lower risk in the sense that I can be agile. I'm not waiting for upgrades to my server. If something goes wrong, it's our fault, and you come after us, and we will get that system back online. Changing requirements, we don't care. That data warehouse you were talking about, or we were talking about, no tuning, no integration needed. All of a sudden you have unstructured data. I go click that Hadoop button or the Spark button, and now I have that environment.
I look at those as Lego blocks. You can build anything.
All right, keep going. So, this is the call to action thing that they always make you do. Try it. And come find me if it doesn't work. IBM.com/Bluemix. No credit card, no nothing. Go find your techie person and say, hey, take a look at this. See what you can do with it. We got a lot of interesting demos out there, all built on Bluemix. And I want to be very clear, IBM wants you to go to the cloud. We think that's the future. And we're doing a lot of things to help you do that. So if you have on-premise investments, things like Cognos or DB2 or Netezza, we can work out things where you can use both the cloud version and the on-prem version for basically nothing, because we want to get you up there. We're providing the tools to do it, the methodologies to do it, and we think you'll be really kind of thanking us in the end. So even if you're on a mainframe, you can get up there, move all this stuff up there for free, and we'll demonstrate it for you. We'll actually send a guy on site and get it working. That's kind of cool, right? No? All right. That's all I got for now. Are there any more questions?
Yeah, the complexity of this Bluemix. What's the complexity of how many data you can?
Okay, so I believe the question was, what's the complexity?
No, capacity.
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 Oh, okay.
And requirement.
Yeah.
System requirement as well.
So if you were to come to me and say, I want to move my stuff into the cloud, I would ask you a couple of questions. And this is always a good thing to be thinking about, is how much data do you have? So I can have hundreds of terabytes in the thing I showed you today. Unstructured data tends to be even bigger, so that's basically linearly scalable. I can have petabytes of data in technologies like Hadoop and Spark. And there's definitely a cost savings there with leveraging historical data or older data or unstructured data on those Hadoop technologies. They're way less expensive than relational databases. So hundreds of terabytes, or petabytes, I should say, if not exabytes, although we don't have any customers doing an exabyte of data, if anybody asks. We do have customers doing this, by the way. And Josh, you here? Yeah, there he is. So here's our cloud guy right in the back of the window. You can go molest him if you want to know customer references and all that stuff. And then the other questions I'd ask is, how many people want to use it? Specifically for a tool like Cognos, you want to know, is it going to be 50 users or 500,000? And what exactly are they doing? Are they doing reporting, analytics? Or are they doing data mining, really deep learning type things? So those three things are how many people, how much data, and what are they doing? And that's always a good first step. If requirements change, That's easy. Turn off one service, add another. If the data scheme changes too much for you to manage, don't go with a relational database. Pick a non-relational database or a graph database. It's all there. Boot it up, you're good to go. That make sense?
Let's say that I have a couple million rows of data.
Yep.
How fast this can handle?
You can put trillions of rows up here. So trillions of rows.
So your entry plan is 1 terabyte.
Yep.
Yeah,
1
so-
terabyte would probably be, what, a couple 100 million rows?
Well, the other thing you have to remember with DashDB is it's got a great compression ratio.
Yep.
I mean, what have we got, Edwin? 8x, I think? Yep.
So we're compressing
yeah.
things, we're putting it in memory, and we're operating on that data set in memory compressed, which is why I can stand up here and say, if you compare this to an on-premise traditional DB2 system or an Oracle system, it will be 10 to 50 times faster. We want to make things like Google. It should be instantaneous. We're not there yet, but we're pretty close.
Yeah, and what kind of system it needs, environment to make the.
Yeah, so you'd size it based on small, medium, large, basically like T-cert sizes, and then we can go to a massively parallel processing version, and you can just add nodes after that.
Are you asking what operating system is running?
It's web-based, right?
It is not web-based, no. It's, I mean, yes, there's a web interface to it, but behind the scenes, it is a bare metal system that runs that.
It's a
And
true
it's,
database.
It's IBM hardware and
So
Linux.
we're up here. We're happy to help you scope
Yeah.
it. Any other questions before you guys all run out there? No, we have no time for questions, I'm being told. Well, we're here.
We have a minute and a half. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert.